Lesson 70.
Comida.
Well, in this lesson, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. The word comida has the accent on the middle syllable, and it's feminine. Besides that, there's not a whole lot to say. But one issue that does come to mind in a lesson like this one is the issue of whether or not to use an article. Of course, by now we know that articles are words like the, a, or an, and we often use them to introduce nouns. But some nouns, like this one, comida, we're not going to really be using articles that much. Like, for instance, in example 1, ellas quieren comida. In that particular exercise, there's no article in front of the word comida. Antonio, why is it that here, in front of the word comida, there's no article?
Okay, I'm gonna just take a couple of exercises here and use them as examples. Number 1, the one you just said, does not have an article. And number 8, el perro quiere la comida del gato. That one does have an article in front of the noun comida. The difference here is that number 1, it's more of a general statement. They want food. In number 8, it's not as general. It's kind of specifying what kind of food it is or whose food is it that they're talking about. El perro quiere la comida del gato. The dog wants the cat's food. That's very specific as far as the noun, the purpose of the noun in the sentence is concerned, as opposed to number 1, which is more of a general statement. So I would say when talking more in general, omit the article, and when talking more specifically, use the article.
So that's somewhat similar to the way we do things in English. In number 1, if we said that in English, we would leave the article out as well. They want food. We wouldn't say they want the food unless it was some kind of specific food. And that's really why we call the article the, we call it the definite article. Because when you say the food, you're talking about a definite thing, a certain food. Therefore, the article the, we call it the definite article. Whereas if you have an indefinite article like a or an, you're talking more in generalities. Like it could be, if you say I have a food, it could be any food. It's not necessarily any certain or specific food. So the issue of definite articles and indefinite articles is related to this, and then sometimes you don't even use any kind of article at all. So I suppose that what you're saying, Antonio, is somewhat similar to the way we do it in English. But it's not always like that in Spanish, is it? I mean, aren't there some differences in usage between English and Spanish as far as the usage of the article, the frequency of use of the article?
Yes, it seems that in Spanish it's more common to use an article in front of a noun. So in other words, you may see a sentence with an article in front of a noun in Spanish, but not in English. It happens more often in Spanish than in English.
Well, I think I see one here in this lesson, number 10. Mm-hmm. The first few words of number 10 are La Señora Jones. Mm-hmm. If we translated that literally, word for word into English, it would say the Mrs. Jones. Of course, in English, we would never say the Mrs. Jones. We would just simply say Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
So I guess this would be an example of a time in Spanish where you would use an article, where in the same situation in English, you would not use the article. So we will revisit this issue. We'll cover this issue more in the future. Well, let's take a look at our exercises. In exercise 1, ellas means they, and it's talking about females only. Quieren is the verb. That's third person plural. So ellas quieren means they want. Comida means food. So number 1 will say they want food. In number 2, nosotros tenemos means we have, and hambre means hunger. So nosotros tenemos hambre literally would mean we have hunger, but idiomatically it means we are hungry. Then we have the word pero, which means but, and no tenemos means we do not have. Of course, it's not necessary to repeat the word nosotros again, so here we leave out the word nosotros, and comida means food. So number 2 as a whole will say, we are hungry, but we do not have food. In number 3, mi papa means my dad. Quiere is the verb. So mi papa quiere means my dad wants. Comida means food. So number 3 says, my dad wants food. In number 4, los gatos means the cats. The verb here is tienen. So los gatos tienen will say the cats have, and then hambre means hunger. So as a whole, number 4 will say the cats have hunger, or idiomatically, the cats are hungry. In number 5, we see the same idiom again, ellos tienen hambre, that means they are hungry. Then we have the word pero, which means but, and no tienen means they do not have. There's no need to repeat the pronoun ellos again. And dinero means money. So number 5 will say, as a whole, they are hungry, but they do not have money. In number 6, ellos quieren means they want. Un gato means a cat. Then we have the word y, which means and the word unos is an indefinite plural article. We translate those with things such as some or a few. So unos perros will say some dogs. So number 6 as a whole will say they want a cat and some dogs. In number 7, nosotras tenemos means we have. Notice that the word nosotras ends with as. That means it's referring to females only. And el carro means the car. So number 7 will say, we want the car. In number 8, el perro means the dog. Quiere is the verb. That means wants. So el perro quiere means the dog wants. La comida means the food. Then we have the word del, which is a combination or contraction of the words de and el. So del means of the, and then gato means cat. So number 8 as a whole will say, the dog wants the food of the cat. But a better way to translate it would be, the dog wants the cat's food. In number 9, mis niños means my children. Quieren is the verb. That means want. So mis niños quieren will say, my children want. And mi dinero means my money. So number 9 says, my children want my money. In number 10, la señora Jones means Mrs. Jones. In this case, we do need the article in front of the word señora because we are just talking about Mrs. Jones. We are not using the word señora as a name by which to directly address her. The verb here is quiere. That means wants. So la señora Jones quiere will say Mrs. Jones wants. Then we have the word dinero, which means money, and también means also. So number 10 will say Mrs. Jones wants money also.